know, baby.
Welcome, all you rockers, rockettes, and everything in between. This is And the Podcast Will Rock. This is the Van Halen Tribute Podcast. That's right. This is the show where we go in and we discuss the tracks and the music and everything we can think of involving Van Halen, one of the greatest rock bands in the world. I am one of your hosts, Mark Kameyer. With me, as always, Corey Morissette. How are you doing, Corey?
I'm doing great. We got the first one under our belts. The first one was not random. We did the first cut from the first album, Running with the Devil, and had a great time doing it. And now, for the first time, we're breaking out the wheel, and we're going to do this at random. So I'm really, really curious to see what we get right off the hop here.
Oh, right back at you. This is, and just in case you guys didn't tune in for the first episode, which you absolutely should, because in that episode, as Corey pointed out, we did not do a random song. No, we did Running with the Devil by Van Halen. The opening track, if you will, the introduction of the band. If you had never heard them before on the radio, if you had never heard anything, you simply picked up the record and put on the needle and hit play. This is the song you were greeted with. We discussed that because it just seemed fitting, but the way the show is going to work, we have a giant wheel with all of the tracks minus a few instrumentals, I believe, the instrumental tracks, but we have all the tracks by Van Halen, and we are going to spin the wheel random, and whatever random song appears when the wheel is done spinning, we are going to listen to, we are going to discuss it, and let me just point out that we have no idea what song is going to hit at a given time, and a lot of these songs, especially toward the later years, I'm very less familiar with. I think Corey is in the same boat. Corey might have a better perspective than I do, but if I'm not mistaken, I think the later Van Halen years are a bit lost on us, or at least under the radar. Am I right?
Oh, totally. I think I heard the Gary Sharon album once when it first came out, and that was about it. Same as A Different Kind of Truth. I've only listened to it a couple of times. So I'm really kind of looking forward to getting some tracks from them, just because I don't know them so well. I'm kind of tossed what I'm kind of hoping for, if I want a Sammy or a Dave right off the bat. I think because we did a Dave song last week, I'm really kind of hoping for a great Sammy tune this week.
I kind of agree. It seems fitting that we would get a Sammy tune this time around, but we might not. It's like I said, it's the spin of the wheel. Right off the bat, let me just apologize if my quality is not as clear as Corey's is. Everybody, I'm speaking to you on not my usual mic setup, so please forgive me. But we make do. You know, I'm in the process of moving to a new location, and things just happen. So now that we've got that out of the way, and my insecurities are just out there, it's fine. Let's see. I too, just like you, Corey, am hoping for a Sammy tune, but there are a lot of Roth tunes to go around, and I have never heard any of the Gary albums, so this could be anybody's game. We might end up hating whatever we talk about, but without further ado, Corey, if you would, please spin the wheel of rock for us.
All right. I'm going to give it a few shuffles here, just so you know there's not any funny business.
Yep, we're priming it.
Yep, and take it away, Sammy.
Here we go.
All right, the wheel is spinning. Oh, we're going to get On Fire.
On Fire. The song.
Do you know this one?
Fire. No, I do not. This is and just to be clear, as much as I love Van Halen, even the Roth and the Hagar eras, there are tracks that I am still unfamiliar with. Just whether it's because whatever album these songs come from, I might have only jammed the hits at the time, or I just forgot. So
On Fire is actually, it's actually on Van Halen 1. It's the final track on the debut album. So right off the hop, we're getting two tracks from the debut album. um, a very heavy song. I'm referencing the Van Halen news desk. They're a tremendous source for Van Halen information. We'll get all our lyrics from them. The song was used to open the show on the 1978 World Tour. So On Fire is a track that familiar to a lot of people. And I just listened to Van Halen 1 not that long ago, so it's still fresh in my mind too. Have you heard this one lately, Mark?
Not lately. No. Like I said, I'm unfamiliar. So I guess this is one of those ones that I was telling you about that I have forgotten. When the unfortunate news of Eddie Van Halen's passing occurred, I remember going on this huge binge of just listening to Van Halen for almost a day and a half straight. And I just I got on Spotify and I just hit shuffle and it was like, just take me away. Just let me listen to whatever songs you got. I don't even care. I don't believe if this track did come up, I guess it just kind of passed me by. I'll be curious to know if it jogs my memory when we start to listen to it.
Yes, obviously the band thought very highly of it as it closed out the album and opened their tour. So I'm really kind of looking forward to this one. I love Van Halen news desk. They give you little tidbits, even to what guitar Eddie played on the tracks. And it says here that Eddie used his Ibanez Destroyer Shark on this track. So on earlier studio outtakes, Mike and Dave sang the verse in unison.
I'm an Ibanez player. I was for many years, so I am familiar with the Destroyer model. So that's very cool information to know.
Excellent. Well, what do you say, Mark? Should we just get right into it and play the song?
Let's get into it because I'm expecting a fire track with this one.
Oh, I see what you did there. Good job.
Yeah.
I know it's a heavier track, so I hope you're in the mood for some metal today, Mark.
Always.
All right, let's give it a listen.
Well, right away, Eddie is hitting you with just straight up a power chord progression. He's not giving you a little bit of no ornamentation, no scale variation. He's just straight up just just power scales, or power chords rather. I apologize. With a heavy inflection on the bass note. So that's. I get it. I get it. When you say this is a heavier one, it's like, well, by Van Halen standards, yes, this is a heavier one. That's so interesting, and it makes sense that they would open up a show with this track because right from the get go, it kind of hits you in the face, and that's kind of what you want to do when you open up a show like this. Especially, let's say they are headlining a tour. And they've got about 3 different openers. Sometimes the crowd gets a little bit restless, or maybe I don't want to say bored, but if they are there to see the headliner and that's it, they get a bit antsy and their attention kind of drifts away. So when the band that they are ready to see finally goes on, you really want to get their attention back in case you lose them. I think just from the opening progression of this song, I think they do that pretty magnificently.
I agree totally. In their very first tour, actually, they were on a triple bill, which is always tough for the opener because you have even less time. You have less time to set up. You usually don't even get a sound check. But they were opening for Ronnie Montrose, who was definitely at the end of his career at that point, and Journey. So they were the first band on the bill. And imagine showing up at like the Spectrum in Philly in 1978 to go watch Journey, and all of a sudden you're greeted with On Fire, right? And Diamond Dave comes out, hair just flowing in the wind, Eddie's wailing away on the axe, this nice heavy riff, and it's by all accounts Van Halen blew both bands off the stage pretty much every single night, and you can kind of see how.
No kidding. And that's got to be a tough crowd because, Journey, no disrespect to Journey, but Journey is just not the same kind of rock band as Van Halen is. And I have to imagine that they probably took a lot of the Journey fan. I'm sure Van Halen probably made a lot of fans during that tour just from the Journey crowd, because Journey's a great rock band, no disrespect at all, but there's just a little bit more. How do I say this without being too vulgar? There's a lot more meat to Van Halen than there is to Journey, and that's not a diss on their songwriting capability at all, but it's just these guys are here to party. Journey's not really there to party. Journey's there to make you swoon.
Yeah, and this is even kind of before Journey like really knocked it out of the park with all their power ballad stuff in the 80s.
Yeah.
So yeah, easy to see Van Halen blew him off the stage, and then they went from that to opening for Black Sabbath. I think Ozzy had just left and came back, so it was a very dysfunctional time for Sabbath as well.
Right.
But they really took to the Van Halen boys. To me, when I hear that opening riff too, I think, early Van Halen, there's this split, right? You got the David Lee Roth, who really wants to kind of move things in a poppier direction, and Eddie, who wanted to take things maybe at the time into a heavier direction, him and Alex. And so this to me feels very much like an Eddie Alex collaboration, as opposed to Dave so much, because Dave kind of liked I think the more melodic, poppier stuff.
Yeah, maybe that makes sense as to why this track is the last one, because maybe at this point, maybe Roth just assumed, whatever, do what you want, because we've already got the hits. I've already done my part. I'll throw some vocals on whatever bullshit you wanna do. We'll put this at the end of the record, and then surprise, surprise, like, no, we're gonna open our shows with this, so be ready, bro.
All right, let's keep going with it here.
Yeah.
Something up real loud. I'm in your Now making shit every day as I ride your side.
All right, so what are your thoughts on the verse structure there heading into the first chorus?
First thought is, now I remember this song. I remember it specifically because this is the one that makes me think of, I don't know who really started it, but this track reminds me of what other bands of the era after, especially in the 80s. 80s, we'll say, for lack of a better term, hair metal bands. A lot of them did the whole, the howling in metal. Like Rob Halford did a lot of it in Priest. Not so much Bruce Dickinson in Iron Maiden, but a little bit. He did a little bit. But just that's really high-pitched howl was something that a lot of bands of that era, metal bands in particular, really started to utilize if they had the vocalist to pull that off. And if this is late 70s, so I have to assume that maybe Roth was one of the first ones to really do it and do it well, at least on record. I don't know what he sounded like doing this live during the tour, but I also have to imagine that he probably scared the shit out of the Journey crowd a little bit. Just like, I mean, for one, just with his appearance alone and probably whatever stage antics he was going about. But that's really interesting. Yeah, that's what made me the sort of the howl singing is really what made me remember. I was like, oh, I do know this track. Okay, there it is, and it's very, very metal of its time.
And there should be another big Dave Howl coming up in the chorus.
I don't doubt it.
In that verse, it kind of showcased the two sides of David Lee Roth as a vocalist for me. I thought just the straight singing was kind of off. I'm not a singer by any chance, but just to my ears, it didn't sound great. But then he gets into that screech, and nobody does that, right? You got like him, you got Steven Tyler. Like there's very few. Rob Halford, like you mentioned, there's very few that really can nail that, and that's where Dave really shines. So we're gonna hear it here in the "Good God, Y'all, I'm on Fire" chorus.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I just want on the first show, Mark, you had mentioned that there really isn't much of a chorus.
That's exactly what I was about to say. That's exactly it. Less is more. And yeah, once again, here we go. Dave utilizing that. I don't have any lyrics for this, so we'll just we're gonna call the song "On Fire." Okay, I'm on fire. Here you go. We'll sing it a bunch of times. We'll make it work.
But we're noticing a real trend on Van Halen 1. That's 2 songs that we're we're just gonna sing the title over and over and over again.
I mean, if you're really having to depend a lot on the music and like sort of the chord progression, maybe even the melody of the riff to carry you if you're going to just give not a lot to the chorus. But I mean, it's honestly, it's doing its job because you want the chorus to stand out. The chorus is there for everyone to, I bet, basically sing in unison. That's the part that's catchy. That's the part you want everyone to know, to sing with you. And if you keep it simple by just saying, "I'm on fire," then there it is. You nailed it. You got everyone singing with you.
There you go.
One time.
And now he taps into the merciful fate, sort of King Diamond-esque howling of just the to all those who are familiar with Merciful Fate and King Diamond. That man made the falsetto howl somewhat legendary.
All right, and I think there's not a lot of substance here for a while, so I think we're getting into a solo here pretty quick.
Okay.
Just I want to stop. I wanted to get your take on the guitar solo, because we talked about Running with the Devil, the very first track on this album, having a very kind of subdued solo that works with the song. Here's another one where Eddie's just kind of opening up a little bit more, right? Noodling a bit more, playing a few more notes in there.
Yeah, he's it still, I think, serves the song, but he's letting himself kind of free it up a bit. He's just saying like, well, this is our heavy riffage song. It's the last song of the track. We're gonna rip. We're gonna just let loose. I haven't heard Alex let loose that much yet, but I don't know. Maybe it's on its way. But yeah, it just seems like Eddie. This is a prime opportunity for him to just do his thing, and he does it. And he still doesn't. This isn't even to me. Eddie really just letting loose. Honestly, it's not really. It's an eruption when I think we get the full scale of him just cutting loose and showing us exactly what he can do. But I'll tell you who's really having a good time with this is Roth, because somebody said, well, if you don't have lyrics, just do that hollering and screaming that you like to do a lot, and just try to go as high as you can. I don't know if someone actually told him to do that, but it seems like he's having a contest with himself of like how high he can scream a note. And I'll be honest, you can hear, if you listen to him, you can hear a lot of vocal doubling. I don't know if that's him doing the doubling or if that's Michael, because a lot of those notes sound a little bit too precise for Roth. So I would not be shocked if Michael is doing those vocals with him, keeping him, on level. What do you think?
Well, I'm just looking at kind of the background of the song, and they talk about the band recorded with almost zero overdubbing, but the vocals were overdubbed to try and give it that kind of live feeling. And you're right, Michael Anthony, the unsung hero of Van Halen, especially vocally, it sounded like him, didn't it? Because it's much more precise. And I just found it interesting because we were listening to all the screeches and Running with the Devil, and there was like 100 of them. I lost count. Like he was throwing them in all the time. Yeah, but they weren't this high. You could tell he's
no, yeah, he's. I don't know if he's just so high that he can get that. I mean, according to legend, I wasn't there in the room. I couldn't say, but whatever it is he's doing, he's doing it in a way that he has yet to utilize quite so. But yeah, you can definitely hear the overdubbing, and Michael's presence is noted for sure.
Now, just imagine being a kid, Mark, and you're heading out to a Journey concert, and this is the first track you hear that night, right? All of a sudden, Van Halen comes out. You got Eddie Van Halen just destroying this, right? Just killing, Alex banging away on the drums. Like you said, he hasn't really gone crazy yet, but it's still got that big Alex Van Halen type backbeat to it, right? Yeah. And then you got Dave screeching his lungs out, high kicking to beat hell, I'm sure. What an experience that must have been in 1978.
I can't even imagine. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, had I been a kid going to see Journey, I have to imagine that watching Van Halen, I just be like, I don't even care about Journey anymore, because like, this is incredible. Especially this, they open with this song. Like, that's a live show can make or break a band to me. And a lot of times that opening track is going to be the mood setter. And if you're opening with something like this, I have to imagine that you're going to have to, it's sort of a blessing and a curse, because right away it's the perfect pick me up you need in case you're losing the crowd. But it's also now you've set a precedence of energy, and now you have the responsibility to keep that up. Otherwise, you lose the crowd. Let me tell you, that is no easy feat.
It's not, but fortunately, Van Halen 1, I think, had the tracks to do that, because there's still a lot of classic songs on that album that we're going to be getting to. But let's finish up on Fire here.
Yeah. That's
good call, Joe.
That's straight up Michael. That is 100% Michael back there. I don't even think Dave's like, I'm not even going to try this. You do it, Mikey.
Yeah, okay, exactly.
I got
it. And nailed it.
Nailed it for sure. I mean, just a build up, just a crescendo of ahs, and it just works, man. I am loving this every second that passes.
Now, lyrically, we want to talk about lyrical content here. Lay your bodies down. I'm in your beds. Throw your headphones on. I'm in your heads. Aha. So not really, very poetic with the lyrics here. Is a very simple, not really telling a story with this song, right? It's just like, hey, you're listening to me. I'm in your head. Turn me up real loud. Let's do it. I'm on fire.
Yeah, it's again, I think they were just out of ideas. I think maybe David was just like, I don't know, man, we gotta do one more song where Eddie can just let loose. You guys can just jam and get as heavy as you want, but we do need lyrics here. And Dave is like, okay, well, I'm imagining just a kid with headphones laying in his bed just jamming. So sure, I'll sing about that. Yep. Why not?
10 minutes later, they have a song, right?
I mean, 5 to 10, I would have to imagine something like that. Yeah.
All right, let's take it home. All right, getting a nice little fade out.
Yeah, and then that's the last track. That ends the album. I mean, wow. I have to go back and just sort of jam the entire album front to cover, because I'll be honest, if I'm listening to that for the first time with my headphones on, let's pretend I'm the guy he's talking about, listening to this album, when that track's over, I don't want it to end. that is why I feel like Van Halen 1 and 2 are basically one giant album. So it's just like you almost, after that track, you almost have to cut right into Van Halen 2, because how can you just stop listening after that? Your energy's up, your adrenaline's pumping. I'd be curious to know how they end that song for a live show.
Yeah, I would be curious as well. I'm sure there's probably live tracks on Google or on YouTube that we can find. Oh, yeah. But you mentioned segueing into Van Halen too. Well, that album kicks off with "You're No Good," which is kind of an interesting segue, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, it's to me, it just feels like one giant party. One giant party. The mood is somewhat the same, but like slightly varied. But I think they work as just one ginormous, one big album.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I found a live clip. Of course, there's an ad because it's YouTube from 1984. So I was maybe going to try and bring this in, and we'll see if it sounds okay.
Oh, they changed the key.
Well, 84, that was 6 years later, so. Oh, yeah, big rock.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
All right.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's how you get your that's how you get the crowd jumping. That's how you get them excited, and you're like, all right, now we got you eating out of the palm of our hands. You know what this track sounds like to me is this feels like a jam that the main three instrumentalists had, and like maybe something that hey, we need to do a sound check. What do we do? All right, let's do that heavy jam that we've been working on for a little bit just to get our sound quality good. Like cool. They did it, and then somebody, probably a producer, said, actually, you know what? Let's just make that a track, and like Dave, go write some words to this. Okay. That's what it sounds like to me. I could be dead wrong about that. I probably am, but that's kind of what it sounds like. It wouldn't be that unheard of, to be honestly.
Oh, no, it happens all the time. And I really like that perspective, because that very well could have happened. I'm not sure. I know they had some of the tracks they worked on for quite a while, like Running with the Devil, and things like that. I don't think On Fire was one of those. I don't think that was one that they came into the studio having already prepared. I mean, it may have been one they wrote during the recording sessions. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it could have happened quick like that. Yeah.
It's I mean, the main riff sounds like something that maybe Eddie had in his arsenal there for a while, but just didn't know where to put it. Mm-hmm. So then it's just kind of like, let's just jam it. Let's just see what happens. And then throw down it, record it, and then say, okay, yeah, we can put some lyrics on this too. What do you got, Dave? I'm on fire. Sure.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I mean, look, it works. Whatever the process actually was, it worked.
Yeah. So, Mark, I believe it's time to vote. Why don't you tell us what you think first? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Is it on fire?
It's on fire, but it sings much higher than what we just heard right there. But oh yeah, absolutely. Like I've got like both goosebumps and I'm pumped up to go just rage after listening to that. That's an absolute thumbs up for me.
All right, and I'm going to give it a. So that's 2 in a row, Mark. I'm going to be keeping count here. How many are unanimous? How many are split? And how many were voted up, voted down? So far, we're 2 for 2 for Van Halen classics here.
I was just thinking about that, and I wonder, this is not necessarily going to be a show where we're just stroking the egos of this band. But look, Van Halen is considered one of the best rock bands in the world, for one of the greatest rock bands ever, for a reason. There's not going to be a lot of times where I'm just going to go like, boy, that's just some awful stuff. Now, I'm not saying that won't happen, because it probably guaranteed will at some point. Like I said, I haven't heard any of Gary's stuff. So, I mean, I might be pleasantly surprised, or I might be, yeah, I was right not to listen to this. Yeah. And that's not to say all of Sammy and Dave's material are great. We pointed out that the lyrics of On Fire aren't great. It's just like there's nothing really going on there. It sounds like he just sort of scribbled it together at the last second. Fine, but also for what it is, it works to me, at least to me. So yeah, you're right. We're 2 for 2 right now, but do not get used to that, people. I guarantee you, it's going to deviate very soon.
Oh, absolutely. I know there's some stuff on Fair Warning I'm not a big fan of. I know there's stuff on For Unlawful in OU 812
right.
that I'm not a huge fan of. There's even a couple tracks on 5150. I think Inside. I hate that song. So
I mean, we were myself and my roommates were talking about Unlawful, and we were just and they were saying, well, I like this song. I go, that's it? He's like, yeah, that's about it. And I'm like, oh. And it occurred to me, I go, well, if I really think about it, the last time I jammed that album, yeah, there's only a couple of tracks that I really enjoy. And then the rest I've just kind of like purposely forgotten. So we, like I said, it might come up real soon. And I couldn't tell you the last time I did 5150.
I tell you, there's like 5 songs on For Unlawful that I really like. I just got it on vinyl. I remember I was so excited because it took me forever to find it on vinyl. I even got it on red vinyl, and I put it on, and those 5 songs that come up, and I love these songs. And there's six that are like absolute garbage. And it's such a dyslexic album for me. There's 6 I hate and 5 I love. And that sums up For Unlawful for me.
I mean, and you're not the only one, as it turns out. I've talked to some people while we've decided to make this podcast happen. I've talked to a lot of people, as a matter of fact. Like, how do you feel about Van Halen, and what's your favorite album? And a lot of people will say Unlawful is the first album that I remember, but not all of it is great. And like, yeah, that's what I'm getting. That's the consensus. So I'll be really curious to see what the wheel picks for us as a start for that album. Exactly.
And I like looking at these songs a little more critically too, because like you talked about the lyrics and On Fire, they're not good. They're not good. And with something like that on a borderline song where the performance maybe isn't as strong is going to sway me to giving it a no vote. Right. But the band was just, for lack of a better term, on fire performing that one. And it was an easy yes for me, but we're going to have some instances where both Dave and Sammy have some interesting lyrical choices that I think might turn the vote for me on a few songs.
I mean, look, you can't get a 10 out of 10 every single time. You just never, it's never going to happen. I know people there are some people out there that probably think Elvis never wrote a bad song. And I'm here to tell you, you are dead wrong about that, but that's a different podcast. But I'm just saying Van Halen is not without their own stinkers as it is. Even U2 and Rush had songs that were not so good.
And there's even a song or two on Van Halen on that original album that I'm not really fond of. I'll probably get a lot of hate mail, but I'm not a huge fan of Atomic Punk.
Oh, see, I was going to say, like, I wonder which one, and I was going to let it sit, but wow, nope. Really?
Throwing it out there. Now, maybe I'll change my mind hearing it again, but just upon reflection, Atomic Punk and Little Dreamer don't stand out to me as being classic tracks. So
one of my favorite Van Halen tracks, I don't know when we'll get to it, but when we get to it, you will know that it's probably, I mean, I don't know if it's my favorite. You know what? I'll put this out there. It's my favorite of the Hagar era.
Okay.
But I'll be honest, it's been a long time since I've listened to it, and it's one that I rarely, I've never analyzed it. So I would be curious to know how you feel about it when we get to it, and how I feel about it once we break it down the way we're doing.
All right. I can't wait to get there. We're 2 in out of 117 or 116 now, I guess. So we got a ways to go.
We do.
But I'm looking forward to the journey so far. 2 for 2 and a couple of good shows too, I think, Mark.
I think so. Yeah. This is just, it's so cool how easily and kind of like go with the flow this format is for us. And I think it's just because it was a no brainer, this podcast, doing this whole the way we're doing it, breaking down some songs about a band that we just genuinely love, and they have a lot of material to go through. And, you know, it'll be really interesting, like I said, when we get to songs that maybe we don't love. Yeah. And how we feel breaking it down, what's going to happen. And I think this was a solid second episode.
Awesome. Well, Mark, why don't you tell them where they can find us online and all that good stuff?
Well, you can find me online at Twitter and Instagram at Mark the Bat. See me and all my random postings, all my music stuff that I've got coming down. It is on the way, I promise you. And that's basically where you can find me. Corey, where can they find you?
I am on Twitter at CD Morset. And of course, you can find our show on Twitter as well. Podcast Will Rock at Podcast Will Rock. We'll be looking for guests. We're going to have a bunch of surprises coming up, hopefully. But I like the way we've kind of kicked things off here with the first 2 episodes. So hopefully you'll stick with us and tell your friends and head on this journey with us, rediscovering the iconic catalog of the mighty Van Halen.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to this probably just on Anchor, fret not, we're working on it. We will get it dispersed throughout all of the podcasting areas. You will get it wherever you get your podcast. But until then, on behalf of Corey and myself, this is And the Podcast Will Rock, and we will rock you later.